Hi everyone, myself Maryam. I hold a bachelor's degree in chemistry and have a teaching experience in both primary and secondary schools in Pakistan, where I used to teach the science and chemistry. After relocating to UAE, I decided to formally re enter the teaching profession by beginning my PGCE journey. Alongside my teaching role in that school, I also worked as a school coordinator where I supported teachers by guiding lesson plannings, discussing their weekly objectives, and helping ensure curriculum continuity across classes. The purpose of this presentation is to explore instructional leadership by connecting the leadership theories with the real classroom practices. I will also reflect on my experiences, the challenges I faced, and the learning as a developing instructional leader. This presentation is going to cover the concept of instructional leadership, its importance, its theories, and its practices within the school context. Presentation, I will share my experience as science and chemistry teacher working in primary and secondary school settings, along with my experience as a coordinator. I will also discuss practical instructional leadership practices observed and implemented in schools, challenges faced in supporting teaching and learning, and the lessons I have learned through the reflection. Finally, I will reflect on how this learning informs my future development as an aspiring and instructional leader. Leadership that focuses directly on improving teaching and learning. It has a main focus on what's happening in the classroom, how lessons are planned, how lecture is being delivered, and how student progress is supported. It is important because it improves the quality of teaching. It strongly influences the student achievement, mainly through the impact on instructional quality and teacher practice. It strengthens curriculum alignment by ensuring the goals, lesson plans, teaching strategies, and assessments are connected and coherent. This helps reducing the learning gaps and supports consistent learning across different classes. It also supports teachers' professional development by encouraging reflection, teamwork, rather than relying on one-off training. When teacher feels supported, instructional leadership contribute to the positive learning climate where trust, teamwork, and strong focus on learning becomes the part of school culture. It encourages shared responsibility for student learning by involving teachers in decisions and collective accountability for student progress. It also supports the data informed decision making where students' assessment evidence is used to identify learning gaps and adjust teaching accordingly. It also supports the change and school improvement by guiding staff through new initiatives and maintaining focus on learning goals. It finally supports equity by identifying the students who needs additional support, so everyone gets the opportunity to succeed. Consider instructional leadership. From my own experience, I find this model effective in many ways because it keeps teaching and learning as the main priority. As a classroom teacher, I have seen how clearly guiding teachers around lesson planning, curriculum focus, and learning objectives help them deliver more effectively. From my perspective, the strength of this model is that it does not require formal authority to be effective, and this makes the model more realistic and applicable. It gets challenging when there is insufficient time and support, and this means that the model is most effective when the leadership is shared and the teachers are supported rather than being directed. Models. First is Hellinger's instructional model. It focuses on teaching and learning, and it has three main areas: clear learning goals, managing instructional program through curriculum and progress monitoring, and promoting a positive learning climate. The second ones come the distributed leadership, that is linked to Spillane, which says that the leadership should be distributed among the staff rather than being held by the senior member. And it recognizes the role of teachers and coordinators in leading instructional improvement through collaboration. Third one is transformational leadership, that is associated with the lead foot, and it focuses on building a shared vision, motivating staff, and developing people to support the change. The context for this presentation is based on my experience working at a private school in Pakistan that follows the local education board. The leadership structure at that school was clearly defined. The principal was the head of the school, responsible for overall leadership. The vice principal worked closely with all the heads of department, coordinating daily activities, monitoring teaching and learning, and delivered everything to the principal. HODs were responsible for managing their subject areas, guiding curriculum implementation, and supporting teachers in improving. Coordinators played a key role in supporting lesson planning, maintaining consistency, and the teachers focused on delivering classroom instruction. So the leadership was being continued and carried out at multiple levels. Instructional leadership practices were embedded into everyday teaching routines rather than existing as a separate formal initiative. One key practice was the curriculum planning and implementation. Teachers used structured weekly planners that clearly outline topics, learning objectives, and classroom activities. Teacher collaboration was encouraged through regular coordination and planning discussion. As a coordinator, I played a role in guiding these discussions. Professional development was mainly continuous and practice based. Instead of formal training sessions, teachers received ongoing support through feedback, mentoring, and guidance from the coordinators. Instructional leadership is mainly collaborative and instructional, supported by the elements of distributed leadership. I believe this approach best reflects my experience as a classroom teacher and coordinator, where leadership was practiced through collaboration rather than formal authority. I choose a collaborative leadership style. From my experience, teachers are more open to improving their practice when they are involved in discussions and decision making. Distributed leadership is important in my approach as it recognizes the teacher plays a key role on instructional leader. My focus remains strongly on instructional. Each day began with the structured lesson planning where I identified learning objectives, key concepts, and activities. This helped me stay focused and manage the classroom time. I encouraged students to ask questions, participate in discussions. Assessments was ongoing part of my routine. I regularly used formative assessment methods such as questioning. Summative assessments were used periodically. One of the main challenges I faced was managing time while addressing the needs of mixed ability classroom. Adapting instruction based on student response helped me become more flexible and responsive as a teacher. In my experience, several challenges affected instructional leadership and school improvement. First, resistance to change in teaching methods was common. Even when weekly planning guidance was shared, some teachers preferred familiar routines. This reduced classroom consistency. Time pressure was another major challenge. Managing a full teaching load alongside coordinator duties meant limited time for follow up, and without follow up, improvements are difficult to sustain. Inadequate resources also affected, especially in science. With limited science labs, access, and models, practical learning was not always possible. Large class size made it difficult to give individual attention, particularly to the students who needed extra support. Conflicting curriculum pacing also created uneven preparation for the assessment, which impacts fairness and student outcome. Parents' expectations sometimes increase pressure for strict testing, which can shift teaching towards marks rather than deep learnings, and many more. These strategies support teaching, learning, and overall school improvement by creating consistency, building teacher capacity, and using evidence to guide improvement. Collaboration and teamwork help teachers plan together, align pacing, which reduces inconsistency across classrooms. Professional development, especially short, focused sessions and coaching, supports teacher growth in practical ways. When teachers receive feedback and follow up support, they become more confident in lesson delivery. Data informed decision making improves learning because it helps teacher identify the gaps. Using quick formative checks allow teacher to adjust instruction, reteach the difficult concept. Curriculum consistencies such as common planning formats and shared assessment help ensure students. Finally, stronger communication and shared resources implement plans more effectively. Together, these approaches improve student progress, strengthen teaching quality, and support long-term school improvement. Learning about instructional leadership has helped shape my professional growth by changing how I think about teaching and improvement. Through my experience, I have realized that leadership is not only a formal role, it can be practiced through daily actions. Professionally, I have grown my ability to plan lessons with clear objectives, reflect more critically, and use assessment evidence to guide decisions. I also understand more clearly the value of collaboration. Looking ahead, my role is to continue developing as an instructional leader leader by strengthening my skills. As I'm rebuilding my teaching career, I want to contribute positively to learning focused school. To conclude, instructional leadership is important because it keeps teaching and learning at the center of school improvement. From my experience, consistent planning and shared practice makes improvement more sustainable. I invite you to reflect on your setting, what is working well, and what small changes could strengthen teaching and learning further. Thank you for watching.